Hello there. I'm Scotty. You're not. I've made it. I'm going to cross it off right now. I didn't cross off Haunted House 2. Cross off the final scheduled review that is not one I have to do with the Groby. Devour Revisited. That's right. I reviewed this back in the very first Halloween Horror Month. And now I'm back to do it here 5 times. 4 years later, but it's 5 Halloween Horror Months later. It's 4 Halloween Horror Months, whatever. For the 5th Halloween Horror Month. There we go. So, back then, I wasn't, talking personally like I am now about such things. And I watched some of my reviews from 2019, and there are a lot of rambling nonsense, so to speak. So I go back and I revisit them, and I revisit the movies more importantly, and I get a new point of view on things. And man, I'm sorry, I still think this is one of the more underrated horror films of the 2000s. I do. This is good, right? And this goes back to Family Video for me. So I mentioned that I did rent The Hollow at Family Video. This was one of 2 movies, The Hollow and this, Devour, were 2 of the first movies I ever rented from Family Video. And that's because I got my account. When it came to town, everything, my mom's like, hey, you're old enough, get your own account. I'm like, okay, fine. She used to rent movies for me from Cashwise, and I'm like, and I try to do it again. She's like, you're old enough, get your own account, So I did. And of course, the first place I went to is the horror section. And I quickly came to learn that Family Video was the shit when it came to independent horror. They had a whole bunch of shit there that I wish I could have branched out and explored more and rented more and just went with it. Because there's a bunch of titles that I've already now reviewed on the channel that I wish I would have discovered earlier, but I just didn't. Right? At the time, it was just mostly DVDs, and eventually Blu-rays came around. I don't know if they were prominent at that point yet, but DVDs. Like I said, 2 of the first titles were Devour and The Hollow. Eventually, I Always Know What You Did Last Summer would also be another one that I rented there. I remember renting it and watching it in my room. I'm thinking, what the hell is this shit? Has nothing to do with the first 2, But these were 2, because The Hollow I'd already seen, so I grabbed that, and I'm going to rent this. And then Devour. And I'm like, Devour? It's got Jensen Ackles on the cover. I had just got into Supernatural at this point, so I was ready to just go with it, right? And when I came home, I'd already seen The Hollow, so I put this in, right? And I was not ready for the experience this movie gave me. Here's the story. Jake, played by Jensen Ackles, is a college student who is introduced to a game called The Pathway. Shortly after this, though, strange things start to happen, such as his friends committing unspeakable acts and then mutilating themselves. And he tries to then track down the pathway and figure out where it comes from, and he realizes it may lead him to the devil itself. How's that for a synopsis? So they say when you watch movies and you get new looks of stuff, the more you watch them, the more you get things. And this opening scene. Okay, so let me go back a minute first. One of the things I like to do when I'm looking at new movies is to read the back of the case. And so I did that. I do that with Shudder movies at Walmart. I look at, what's the new from Shudder? What's this? Oh, that's interesting. Put in a cart. Let's go. But here, I did that. And with the fact that I had Jensen Ackles was already enough. But I just wanted to see the premise. Here's the thing, though. I remember the back of the case heavily emphasizing the fact that Jake has psychic visions. However, they are not emphasized in the movie. He has them. But they're briefly talked about at the beginning of the movie and then just thrown away. And that leads me to conclude that these psychic vision things were a last minute addition to the film. Something they shoved in there. Because there is a small little speech at the beginning where Jake is like, I have these waking nightmares. They're not really daydreams. They're like daydreams, but I'm awake, sort of thing. And he briefly talks about it, and then throughout the film, he gets just flashes when he touches someone. And then at the end, he gets another vision showing the truth of what happened with his birth and everything. And that's about it. It feels like they edited in. They wanted to do exposition with certain things, but they thought, you know what? Let's do something with it. The visions are, it's completely red filter. It's a cheap, this was put out by Sony. It's a Sony release, Columbia Pictures, whatever, Columbia TriStar, whatever. But it's one of those cheaply to video made movies. But it is, I think it's pretty well done. There's music, the way it looks. It's got a cheap look, but nowhere in the film does anything else feel cheap. The music, the acting, the performances, even the gore, nothing else looks cheap. It's just like it feels like a direct-to-video movie from 2005. That's the thing. I like to know when Jensen Ackles filmed this. I like to think it was after Smallville, but before Supernatural, so it was like sweet spot to film things for a couple weeks. I don't know. Because his tenure on Smallville ended in 2005 and then began in 2005. So there's a sweet spot in 2004. He had to do something. When as soon as he was done filming the Smallville stuff, he went and did this and then got Supernatural and went to film that right away. I don't know. But so we have our cast, right? Jensen Ackles plays Jake Gray, our main character. His best friend is Conrad, played by Teach Grant, who I think is an underrated actor. He's been in many things. He's one of those guys. He's one of those actors who's like, hey, I know that guy because you've seen him somewhere. He's in this. He's in Leprechaun Origins, which is a huge piece of shit. He's in a Big Time Rush movie. Yes, and he's been in plenty of other things. He was actually recently on an episode of The Irrational. Yeah, that new show starring Joe West, or the guy who plays Joe West on The Flash. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. Jesse L. Martin. That show. It was in the first episode. Now, well, that's ironic. I'm covering Devour, but yeah, he was it's like the first scene. The whole, we gotta show what this guy's all about. This main character, Jesse L. Martin's character, is all about. So yeah, and then we have Dominic Swain from Face Off playing another character whose name I don't remember. Conrad and Chloe. I wish I would have looked it up. Conrad and what's her name? I don't know. And they're his two college friends. You can tell from the very beginning that Conrad is a little off kilter. He's a little, offset, right? He's smoking weed. Jake is talking to this other guy named Darius, who's an actor I've seen somewhere else before too. I think the guy ends up being on Supernatural too. And Conrad is obviously eyeing the guy's girlfriend. And when he asks him, hey, what's up? What you doing? What are you looking at? Not your car, homie. And then Conrad goes to pull a gun on him, and that's why he's unhinged. But he does say, it just told me to scare him. It just told me to scare him. And at this point, you're thinking, the gun? No, you find out later what it is. And then we meet the girl whose name I can't remember. Conrad. Dakota. She was named after the place where she was conceived. Conrad and Dakota. And Dakota, they play this scene up like they don't know each other. And then she's like, well, acts like she's going to go down on him. And she pulls out a bottle of wine or champagne or something. Bottle of alcohol. And I do like this line where the teacher's like, what are we here to make of this? And she's like, mimosas. By the way, this teacher is piece of shit. For lack of a better word, a phrase. He's a piece of shit. Because he basically told Dakota, fuck or fail. Yeah, he's one of those guys. He sees a hot college co-ed and say, hey, I'll pass you in this class. If you fuck me. If not, then I'm going to fail you. That's bullshit, man. Not, no. What she should have done, though, was report him. I know that maybe she doesn't have a lot of clout, but come on. This might not be the first time he's asked her to his office either. I don't know. But they're at Jake's birthday party, apparently. We also find out his mom is in a wheelchair and his dad used to be an alcoholic. They're celebrating his birthday. He goes out with his friends, and that's where Conrad introduces him to the pathway. It's a game. I don't know how this is really supposed to work. They call you and they give you a task to do, I guess. I don't know. But this is one of the times, Jake, this happens, and then he has a vision where he goes outside to take a piss, and he sees, like, someone, or he goes to leave or something, and he sees someone throwing gasoline on the building, and it's a lizard creature. I don't know. Is that door locked? It is. Superstition. But yeah, and then he snaps out of it, like, and then we start to see the effects that the pathway has. Like, Dakota has sex with him. It's one of, they do describe it as, you know, well, like, he's sitting in a chair, you can hear her unzip his pants, and then she sits on him, and you sort of ride each other, and I'm watching it this time, and it's kind of funny, because they're going, and the chair is kind of moving with them, and then it stops, because I think Jensen Ackles puts his feet down, but when they start, it's like this, and they're going, and then the chair's kind of moving, and then it stops, and then, yeah, he's like, you made love to me because the pathway told you? She goes, no, Jake, I fucked you because the pathway told me to. I like that line. Jake is also works at a computer store where he fixes computers. This is where he meets Marisol, played by Shannon Sossaman. You may know from Sinister 2 that I know I still haven't reviewed, but I'll get to it. It's on a long list of sequels that I still have to do, okay? In fact, I should put that in my card. Let me... Sinister 2 eBay. Have it your way. No, that's BK. I think I put eBovie, but it's eBay. So she becomes the love interest. Then when a twist happens, you're kind of weirded out. But she has a piece of wax on her computer, and her and Jake sort of connect. He finds out that she's actually his mom's nurse. And I'm sitting here watching this, and I'm going, you know, that's too much of a coincidence. She brings her computer in, and then it turns out mom's nurse. Like, she must be new, apparently. Now, keep in mind, if you're watching this, he's already a part of the pathway. As soon as he gets signed up for the pathway, then this woman shows up. So if we put two together, there's got to be some kind of connection, but you're not quite sure. Jake has a vision that he accidentally shoots his dad and then cuts off his tongue. When he wakes up in his room, his dad's fine and nothing really happened. So, I'm sorry if I keep clearing my throat. I don't mean to. I am autistic. I have Asperger's. Sometimes that I have the tics. Not facial tics or swearing tics. Sometimes facial tics. It's more facial and sound tics than swearing ones. I'm not going to go, check my gut. You know, I'm just going to... Weird taste. Anyway. There, that's better. So he starts to realize that something's going on. And then shit hits the fan. Conrad calls him. He's like, hey, man, I got 2 girls. Although we can tell he's just sitting in front of a door with the phone. And he's like, man, I got 2 girls. He's like, man, why don't you call me? He's like, no, man, I'm not going to share with you. They see you, they're gonna take off. They're not going to have anything to fuck do with me. And he's like, okay, take care of yourself. All right. Well, Jake, fuck you. friends can do that. Eh, And then you see he has a gun. The phone calls him. It's a pathway. It tells him you can get your revenge, whatever. He's got the gun, which is the same gun that he had earlier, but Jake threw into the lake. Jake into the lake. I'm watching this part. I wonder if they filmed in Canada, because this looks like the same lake in the season 1 episode of Supernatural. Which is, they could have filmed it at the same time. The Bill Carlton episode, the one with the water ghost thing. Yeah. So, because the Jake and him said they're going to have breakfast the next morning. So Jake goes to see him. He's knocking on the door. He's not answering. And he goes into Darius's room. And we have already seen that he came in and he shot him, but we don't see the shots happening. He's shooting, but we don't see what's going on. We go in there and he shot the shit out of him, and then he stabbed himself with pencils in his ears, which looks kind of stupid, and then cut off his tongue. This is where we find out that the sheriff is his uncle, his dad's brother. I should mention his mom's brother, excuse me. His mom is in a wheelchair from an accident that happened when Jake was little. We don't really get told much about it until later, and then this happens. And then Jake goes to see this tattoo guy who ends up being important later. I want to call him Frank because I feel like he was in a show or something where he was called Frank. I swear he was in a Hollywood Babylon episode of Supernatural. I swear he was. As the tech guy. Maybe his name was Frank. I don't know. But, yeah. And so he takes Marisol out. And here's the thing, right? It's shown to us that Jake and Dakota clearly had some kind of relationship type thing. And she just fucked you. And, and she made the whole stink about, well, not like you really care about me. And what's the first thing you do? You take your new girlfriend to the place where she works. That's smart, Jake. But the teacher shows up and just walks into the kitchen and no one else says anything. And he goes in there and grabs her on the ass and no one else says anything. There's gotta be other people in that kitchen. And then she gets a phone call. And they get their order and they leave. And they're at the tattoo place and then they find a finger, the teacher's finger with the ring, because she says, you keep squeezing that ring, finger's gonna pop off. That's a hint to that. And then they find out that she did do that, she killed him, and then she committed suicide. But she gives them their order, so she didn't do it like Conrad did that. She killed the guy, gave him the order. Maybe the finger was supposed to be a call for help, because she knew she was going to do it. But now they're both dead, and then his uncle is like, you're going to come to my cabin, and we're going to talk about this, and you're going to tell me what's going on. And they never get a chance to. They go there, they talk, and we get a call back to the opening scene where he was harvesting the organs of the deer or the animal that he shot, and then burying stuff. Something about, so go to waste their stuff. I don't remember what it was really about. But then he and Marisol make out in front of the fire, and then they find out that their uncle is now dead. He was in a car accident and smashed into some wood or something. He's got wood stabbed through his face. I don't understand this. His dad is also erratic. He started drinking again. His mom. Yeah. So at this point, we've already seen that. There is also, after he got a phone call where he, envisioned him killing his dad and shooting himself, he did see like a demon thing, which we find out is what the devil is in here. But now we get to the investigation. He's trying to figure out what the pathway is. He goes to talk to that tattoo artist guy, who I'll just call Frank from now on. I don't remember the guy's name, but Frank tells him, oh, there is one guy gets you, talking about devil worship and all that. So we go to see William Sadler's character. I don't remember the guy's name. Basically, he tells the story of what happened. He used to do all these dark seances and connect you with Beelzebub. And he was basically a part of a cult. He and his college student girlfriend at the time. It was his student, which kind of echoes the Dakota thing, but not really a relationship. Here it was. Anne was her name. And she was pregnant. But then along came a man named Aiden Cater and took Aiden Cater? Is that his name? Whatever. And he took over this cult, basically. And he did a ritualistic sacrifice of her and the baby, or so we think. And, yeah. So Jake goes to see Aiden Cater. And at this point, Marisol is forgotten about, and you're supposed to. But goes to see him, and he tells Jake that the pathway was created to find him. That he is the son of the devil. It was made to find him, and that's what it was all about. He denies this. They have a scuffle, and he pushes him off the balcony, hits his head, and he goes into a pool. He's dead now. And so he ends up in the woods. I don't remember how he gets out there, but this is where the finale is, and we get the big twist of it all. All right. Besides that, he's the devil's son. He goes to the woods, and he finds his parents tied up, apparently dead, supposedly. And he finds this older woman, a woman he saw in his vision at the beginning of the film, which is his mother. But then she turns into Marisol. His birth mother turns into Marisol, and I went, because you really think about it, he had sex with her. He had to have. So that gives a new meaning to the term motherfucker. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. But yeah, and then she forces Jake. He stabs her, but Jake is forced to drink this blood. And she dies, but he sees a vision of what happened. The truth is that the mom and dad, his adopted mom and dad, we find out, were hunting in the woods when they heard the noise, and they found this creature giving birth to a human baby. They stole the baby and ran off. This caused the accident that put his mom in the wheelchair, and they saved the baby. And that part of the speech is that it says, "Do you know what I sacrificed?" "What did you sacrifice?" You know. And he says, my loving wife, or whatever it was. So yeah, he is the devil's son, and devil in this version is a woman. Although we know from Bedazzled that the devil can take many forms. And then he wakes up to being arrested for all the murders, apparently. Now, this raises the big question. Even Jake says it. Was the pathway real? Was any of this real? Or did he go nuts? And did he actually cause all this stuff? I don't know. Okay. The ending kill is up in the air. But I'm pretty sure we know Jake, the death of Conrad's kill of Darius and his girlfriend was Conrad. Right? We don't see that from Jake's point of view. Jake's not around when that happens. Also, Dakota and the teacher is also not around. But if you see that Marisol was manipulating him, and I don't know. The thing with the parents, he could have done it, I guess. Who knows? But, you know, it could just be. Because nobody dies when he gets the phone call. From there, he has a vision. For all we know, everything from that point in the film could be made up. Could be all in his head, and he committed all those murders. We were just seeing it the way that he said they went down. You know, kind of like High Tension. We're seeing everything from Marie's point of view, right? So, we were seeing everything from Jake's point of view. In my personal opinion, it was all real. Everything happened the way we saw it. And Jake's just been framed. He's going to prison. Now, I think I said this in my first review, but I'm going to reiterate it here. I think I came up with ideas for a prequel and a sequel. The prequel would come out first and show, it would be called The Pathway, it would show the origin story with William Sadler's character, and Anne, and Aiden Cater, and all that stuff, and the creation of the pathway that connects to this. And then we have a sequel that takes place how many years later it would be for Jensen Ackles to come back. He's been in prison, he has a parole hearing, he's let out, you know, when his woes, and he finds that certain things are starting to come back to him. He keeps seeing Marisol everywhere, even though he stabbed her, but she's the devil everywhere. And he's constantly trying to battle in his head whether or not it's real, or if he's seeing things, that sort of thing, if it's real. You know, maybe he's staying with Frank, or the tattoo guy, because his dad was, no, they're pretty much dead, but maybe he's staying with Frank. I don't know, and he's has some kind of connections. Who knows? But it would, you know, ultimately lead to another showdown with the two. Who knows? Maybe reveal. My idea is that Aiden Cater, you know, something that to be revealed in the prequel would connect to this, where it's revealed that Aiden Cater is an immortal who has worked with the devil for decades, and they were separated. My idea is that the devil came to Earth in the form of a woman and lost her memory, grew up, and fell in love with William Sadler's character. Aiden Cater was sent from hell, sort of like a demon, like a Crowley type character, to collect her and restore her memory, and then the birth of the child happened. That's my sort of take on it. And then the sequel would reveal that Cater is still alive, because of course he's immortal. He's a mortal demon in human form. So there's that twist for you, and he would be involved, as well as Anne, whether she would look like Shannon Sossaman or not. I would probably get, well, no, if you're doing a prequel, and this is years later, you probably get a different actress to play the role, but I would love to get Shannon Sossaman back for the role in the sequel. It's just an idea, something I come up with. But when it comes to this movie, I say it's pretty good. I think it's an underrated film. I like it. The acting performances are great. Some of the visuals are kind of like the red. But otherwise, I love this movie, man. But I can't give it a 2 to the moon. You know I love it, but it's not perfect, you know. But I think it's pretty good. So, what are your thoughts on Devour? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I've been Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one. I'm now done with the predetermined reviews, except for the 2 I'm doing with the Groby. And now I probably already have them up, but I'm doing reviews for Halloween episodes of TV shows, or just horror TV show episodes, just whatever I can come up with. I'll probably film multiple a day, but spread them out throughout the month, like at noon or something. I'll put them up. They won't be every day. Probably by now I'll do a short and explain it. By now it'll be up. So.